And lastly, before I get into today's reading, I want to shout out Red Mirage on Twitter. He just released the second book of his series, Painting the Mists, on Amazon. He publishes the story for free on Royal Road Legends, but it's really cool to see original English Xianxia novels like Blue Phoenix. So if you're looking for a new read, you can go check it out and let him know what you think. He's pretty active on Twitter, promotes it. I just like supporting people who do original creations too, because that's what I am. I'm just like a podcast talking about this stuff. So the people actually are making it, that's really great that they've been so inspired to make their own. So again, that's Painting the Mists on Amazon by Red Mirage. Check him out on Twitter. Now, last week's poll was a vote on which novel I'd read today. The options, obviously, were Warlock of the Magus World, A Sovereign of the Three Realms, Song of Exile, and Returning from the Immortal World. I'm still really tempted to read Returning from the Immortal World because I've heard is hilarious. I also love Warlock Magus World. It's one of my favorites, even though a lot of people don't like it for some reason. But 43% of you have voted, and the winner is Sovereign of the Three Realms, which I'll be talking about here in just a second. I really like Sovereign of the Three Realms. So it's being translated by Etvolare, who does a really great job with it. It has a lot of text and a lot of descriptive words, plus it deals with a lot of sect politics and interesting uses of themes. So I can't imagine it being very easy for Etvo to actually translate the whole novel. But it has some really cool payoff moments. This is a novel that deals with a lot of slapping of the face. It deals with a lot of that whole providing face or taking face away kind of moments. If you don't know what loss of face or slapping of the face is, you can check out Deathblade. He has a great video that talks about that. He also talks about like swishing of the sleeves and kind of those weird like sayings that you hear a lot of. He can explain it in the time it takes for spark to fly off flint. So this novel has a lot of great hooks for a story, and I'm enjoying it. It starts very comedically. It doesn't stay as comedic as you would be first interpreted to think. It still does have those comedic moments, but let me just read for you the synopsis. But after we read the first chapter, you're going to think that this is a strictly comedy novel. It's not strictly comedy. It has some really great fights in it. It has some really cool moments in it. And it's a little bit OP in terms of kind of like Emperor's domination and that he knows everything. In this one, though, they make him OP enough that it's realistic, but not OP enough that he can't get killed. So it's like it's a good balance of him like knowing a lot in terms of he's got pre-existing knowledge of a lot of things, but he's also not as strong as, you know, a lot of people are. So let me read you the synopsis from Wuxia World. So Jiang Chen, son of the Heavenly Emperor, unexpectedly reincarnated into the body of a despised young noble, thus embarking on the path of the underdog, trouncing all comers. No one has the right to call himself a genius in front of Jiang Chen, as no one has a better understanding of the heavens than the son of the Heavenly Emperor. Genius, he who adheres to me shall ascend. Those who oppose me can find solace in hell. Custom translator synopsis: sentenced to death because of a farting in the first chapter. Enough said. Yeah, that's Etvo's little synopsis, which is pretty great. So a lot of the names we're using in this is Xiang, and then it's just the different surnames. So like Chun or Ling or all sorts of that. So let's go ahead and give you my preface. Again, I am not a Chinese speaker. I live in California. I'm from North Carolina. I used to have an accent and talk like this because I was from North Carolina. So please forgive my mispronunciations of the words. I am working on it. Cool. So Sovereign of the Three Realms, Chapter 1, Son of the Celestial Emperor, Reincarnation and Rebirth. Jiang Chen felt like his brains were made of mush, as if he was in a dream, but this felt much more real than that. Every inch of skin, every bone in his body cried out in agony. Am I dead? Am I suffering through the fires of purgatory that burn in hell? Jiang Chen's first instinct was that he was dead, but the tenuous hint of breath in his body seemed to remind him otherwise, that he was still alive. After who knew how long, Jiang Chen suddenly forced his eyes open with a struggle, but found himself In a coffin. In a coffin? Then, am I really dead? Jiang Chun became depressed. How laughable. Jiang Chun, son of Celestial Emperor, was born with a yin constitution, and thus could not practice martial Tao. Even when Father refined the sun-moon pill so that I could enjoy life as long as the heavens exist, I still became Father's burden and succumbed to my death when the cataclysm descended from the heavens. What's going on with my meridians? There's true chi flowing through them. It's quite weak. Wait, this isn't my body. This is definitely not my body. I was born with a yin constitution, so how could I have a true chi present in my body? And if I was truly dead, how could there be true chi flowing through my body? It was as if an electrical jolt passed through Jiang Chun's brain as he lay in the coffin. At the same time, he realized that the body lying in the coffin didn't belong to him. What is this? Whose body is this? This unexpected discovery brought both surprise and joy to him. He quickly discovered a few fragments of memory in the body. This body's owner was also named Jiang Chun, the son of the Duke of the Jianghan province in the Eastern Kingdom. The name is right, but this is obviously not me. I'm the son of the almighty Celestial Emperor. How did I become the scion of such a mundane kingdom? Jiang Chun's mind was filled with questions. Did I really die in the cataclysm? Is this the reincarnation referred to in legends? The heavens were shattered and the wheel of life smashed. I should have been annihilated in the cataclysm with no hope of traveling along the wheel of life. So this means I've really reincarnated? Jiang Chun finally confirmed this new reality after perusing the fragments of the past Jiang Chun's consciousness. To think that I was the exalted son of the Celestial Emperor in my past life, yet was barred from cultivating due to my yin constitution. Yet now that I've reincarnated into the son of the Duke of such a humdrum kingdom, I've gained the potential to train. The irony. The heavens were shattered and order crumbled. I, Jiang Chun, lived 1,000,000 years in vain in my past life. Although I died with the sun and moon, I couldn't offer any help when the cataclysm arrived. A yin constitution cannot train, and thus is doomed to always be at the mercy of others. My fate was like that of a floating speck of dust, easily dispelled as the wind blew. Jiang Chun grew somber, lost in his thoughts as he thought of the treatment he'd suffered in his past life, and of his father who had developed the sun-moon pill at such a great cost so that his son's mortal body could enjoy life as long as the sun moons. He knew that this life and death separation was possibly an eternal farewell, even though he'd lived 1,000,000 years, even though he possessed great intelligence. When he thought of his father, the Celestial Emperor, painstakingly taking care of him, hot tears still spilled out of his eyes. He knew the heavens were shattered. Even if one were as almighty as the Celestial Empire, it was almost impossible to survive the cataclysm. Jiang Chun became upset as his thoughts traveled to the end of his path. However, it was as if a bolt of thunder crashed into his soul when his soul touched upon his body's meridians. It was like a man dying of thirst finding a sweet spring. The slowly moving true chi was so weak to the point of almost flickering out. But it was this fragile hint of true chi that stoked his flames of life and swept away those depressing thoughts. Train. Cultivated. This was once a ludicrous thought for someone with a yin constitution like mine. I couldn't train in my past life, but never acceded to fate. Now that I've gained the potential to train due to reincarnation, is this not an opening that the door of fate has cracked open for me? I was the exalted son of the Celestial Emperor and held charge of the Tian library for millions of years. I've perused countless books and scrolls. I was familiar with all discipline and methods of training. I was unparalleled and renowned through the accomplishments in the Tao of alchemy, but my knowledge was forever halted and just theoretical at an abstract level. Now that I've gained the ability to train thanks to reincarnation, what cause have I to fear? For what reason would I, Jiang Chun, bow my head in defeat? Jiang Chun felt a weight lift off his shoulders as he explored this line of reasoning. Those negative emotions he had slowly disappeared. He felt like this reincarnation was a turning point that would interminably change his life. Indeed, from the perspective of Jiang Chun's past life, the identity of the son of an ordinary noble was completely inconsequential. But even the lowliest person possessed one quality that he did not in his past life, and that was the qualification to cultivate. The qualification to cultivate was like a starting line of a race. Although he's an eminent person in his past life, as lofty as dragons and phoenixes, he could only watch on the sidelines. Now, despite his commonness in his current life, despite being like an ant, he had the qualification to step up to the starting line and take his place. The path of training was ceaseless and boundless. As long as one had good fortune, one could transform and become all-powerful. Even wings could be stuck onto ants for them to soar in the heavens. And now an opportunity had come. Son of the Celestial Emperor, keeper of the Tianlang Library, he had devoted his millions of years of life almost entirely to studying. It would be no exaggeration to say that he was a walking encyclopedia and grasped the world's knowledge. His belly full of theories spanning from the divine heavens to common dirt, there was no topic that Jiang Chun was unfamiliar with. Although Jiang Chun could not train in the many boring years of his past life, he loved to take in disciples and conduct experiments with them. Testing out one theory or another, he'd lost track of how many prodigies he'd created in his lifetime. What was opportunity? He had reincarnated with the memories of the son of the Celestial Emperor and had gained the body of the unfortunate dukedom heir Jiang Chun. Those experiments he had conducted on his disciples could finally now be acted out with his own hands. This was opportunity. Jiang Chun could hardly contain himself. At this moment, a striking crash sounded as if something had slipped and cracked. Jiang Ying, figure it out! Find out at all costs! Zhang Feng, the Duke of the Zhonghong, furiously smashed a vase, almost wishing to burn down the kingdom in his rage. Your lordship, we already have a clue! Jiang Ying spoke respectfully, dressed from head to toe in black. Although the young master was not diligent in training, he was still a fighter of the true chi level. His control over his body would be absolute. In the face of an important occasion, he would not have lost control and passed gas. Then someone is behind all this. Someone intentionally wanted to embarrass Chunar during the rites of heavenly worship so that he would enrage the king and be executed? Zhang Feng's tone had descended to a dangerous point. The young master ate breakfast with friends at Autumn Crane this morning. I did not discover anything when I investigated Autumn Crane, but found traces of 3-laugh powder in the young master's body. 3-laugh powder? Zhang Feng's face darkened. How would he not know what the 3-laugh powder was? This item cleared up a person's internal passages. While it did not have any side effects, it would cause a person's chi to sink throughout their body and be emitted from all parts of their body. His son's damnable gas expulsion that enraged the king during the rites of heavenly worship was not out of nowhere. It was definitely due to this 3-laugh powder. It seems that instead of being a coincidence, this was a devious, premeditated plot. Zhang Feng easily came to this conclusion after connecting the dots. Your lordship, here's a list of whom the young master had breakfast with. However, they're all sons of the other dukes, so it would be difficult to find out who's responsible. Jiang Ying was Zhang Feng's right-hand man and his most valued and loyal vassal. Go thoroughly investigate this matter. Even if I lose my dukedom, even if I'm a man torn asunder, I will not idly sit by while my son has been killed. Zhang Feng didn't believe the crap of absolute obedience to one's overlord. Utter drivel. Generations of the Jiang family had been loyal, but not stupidly loyal. The Jiang family had toiled ceaselessly for the Eastern Kingdom royal family for generations, defending the land, fighting in wars, and steadfastly holding their stations. They had won their sole dukedom at high cost, but now his only son was unceremoniously caned to death. A vassal had no need to be loyal if the overlord was not kind. If it came down to it, rebellion then. It felt as if a volcano was on the verge of erupting in his chest whenever Zhang Feng thought of King Eastern Lu's cold expression as he gave the order to kill. The sight of his enemies gloating in that moment, or the son that had been beaten beyond recognition as he lay in his coffin. He itched to immediately return to his territory and stampede into the capital with hundreds of thousands under his banner, to let rivers of blood flow in the streets. Upon hearing these words, combined with the vague memories left in the body, Jiang Chun roughly understood what had happened. It turned out that the original owner of this body had the unfortunate timing to fart during the rites of heavenly worship. These rites were hosted by the most sacred temple in the country and attended by the king and all 108 Eastern Kingdom nobles in order to pray for King Eastern Lu's beloved daughter. The king and his nobles had commenced many preparations before the rites were held, such as foregoing meat, bathing, and changing into fresh clothes, as well as burning lavender incense. In other words, everyone had cleaned up nicely and was striving for perfection in order to convince the heavens of their sincerity to succeed in obtaining blessings. Everything was proceeding smoothly at first, but just as the king and his nobles had kowtowed on the temple steps in prayer, Jiang Chun let out an ear-splitting fart. One that had to know that kowtowing in prayer was the most important part of the entire rite. Absolute silence needed to be maintained during this part. This was how one could communicate with the gods and demonstrate their devotion. However, Jiang Chun's fart rudely broke this silence and shattered this dignified gathering. Everyone knew that farts were comprised of unhealthy gas and were extremely unsound. If this had happened during a regular occasion, it would have been simply passed over as someone else held their breath. However, Jiang Chen's regrettable fart was smelly and long. It was an affront to the gods. The high priest in charge of the rites proceeding was appalled and started cursing loudly, as if the fart had destroyed the pillar of the world and was causing the sky to cave in. This aroused the great wrath of King Eastern Lu as he doted on his beloved daughter and he called for the guards to drag Jiang Chen away and beat him to death. Even then, his anger was not abated, and he gave the order to hang Jiang Chen's corpse on the city wall for vultures and scavengers to pick on. Jiang Chen wouldn't even have had a body left if the kingdom's nobles didn't persuade the king otherwise, pointing out that openly displaying a corpse was vulgar and uncivilized and would adversely impact the kingdom's fortunes. Chapter 2. All right, so that was chapter 1, guys. It was pretty fun. Honestly, like, it's a fun story. You can tell that there's like hints of humor in there, but they're also like talking about beating somebody to death with a cane. Like, it has its moments. Obviously, it's kind of cool. The story revolves around, obviously, Jiang Chen, who is the son of the Celestial Emperor. But after the Cataclysm, which you don't really know what that is, just the Cataclysm of whatever his previous life was, he was thrown into the cycle of reincarnation, ended up in somebody of the same name, but was kind of a silk pants, and by people's plotting, ended up being poisoned with something that would make him fart during a very sacred ceremony. So everything kind of goes from there, but it's really cool seeing him figure out kind of, because he's in like basically a backwater area of the world, trying to cultivate with a lack of resources, but then competing against people who are born with a golden spoon in their mouth, all that kind of stuff. So the story develops from there. It gets really good. I'm already caught up on it right now, so that means I'm on like almost chapter 1,000, which is really cool. So we're almost 1,000 chapters into the translation. So if you're into that, if you like the chapter 1, if you like the synopsis, definitely check it out. It's one that I'm reading consistently, so you should look into it.